distinguished guest today, architect Solaiman Khereiji, for a lecture on Islamic architecture. I'm sure that you have read the CV of Mr. Khereiji, but let me just recap on some of the issues that to introduce him for those who don't know him. As a matter of fact, when I read the CV, I didn't know where to start. This is the first time I introduce someone who has graduated when I was at 6th grade. So that can tell you the amount of experience and knowledge that he has acquired. I always consider myself old. Thank God there is somebody who's older than and younger in heart and huge, extensive experience in any field you could think of. Architect Solaiman has received his bachelor degree from the University of Oklahoma State University in 1975. I'm sure most of the people here were not even born. He has also received a diploma in computer application in 1975. So if you think your program is IT, he has been talking about computer application and design in 1975. Alright, so this is how old the computer technology is. He also has received a project management degree from Stanford University in 1991. In 1977, he established his own practice, Solaiman Khereiji Consultant Office in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia. And ever since then, he's been practicing architecture, preaching architecture, talking about architecture, leading architecture, urban design, and consultation. He has been a member of the Majlis Shura as a consultant. He is a chairman of the UBA Bank in Albania. He's also vice president of the Arabian Gulf chapter of PMI and former vice president of the Western region chapter. He has written so many books and articles. To list a few: Vision to Reality, it's an architectural book; Modern Architecture and Local Environmental Design; City Beautification, it's a summary presented in the first Saudi Engineering Sciences Committee in Jeddah; Methods of Mountain Beautification; and he has selected and published the projects in the architectural book called Great Designers of the World, in 2 editions, 3rd and 6th edition. He was invited to give lots of lectures, and to list a few in the fields of Islamic architecture, engineering, sustainability, in major and global universities, including Cambridge University, British Muslim Heritage Center, King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah, King Faisal University, and London School of Economy. And he is affiliated with so many organizations. I don't know how he can keep up with all this work. He is the member of the PMI Project Management Institute in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is a founding member of Al-Umran Association, and still a member, an active member. He is a member of the Saudi Council of Engineers, and he is the chairman or the ex-chairman of the Western Region Saudi Council of Engineers in Jeddah. He is a member of the American Institute of Architects, the AIA in New York. He is a member of the Architects Association in London. He is a member of the United Architects of the Philippines. And finally, he still is a member, an active member of the Engineering Association in Cairo, Egypt. I don't really have much to say to introduce him, but I would like you all to help me welcome Mr. Solaiman today.
Thank you for this introduction, which I really, nothing of start, I feel I'm still a student of architecture, because real architecture is a quite beautiful field, and you can never really finish studying or working in architecture. As we know, طلب العلم من المهد للحد. I will start really just showing a small video about the project that we have started now in Riyadh. Then we'll enter into the main topic, which is contemporary Islamic architecture. This movie really shows, again, the idea of concept to completion, even though now we are at the initial stages of construction. As you see, this building really is a multimedia building, which meaning offices for different companies in the multimedia, in the marketing, and some of them is in the management. The idea is really started with looking at the desert, looking at the dunes, Primad, and how we can. No, it's a private company. Look here at some examples from the past and how these were done. I'm not going into details. Professionalism. When you say professionalism, you know that Muslims really start taking this not just as a profession, but really as a responsibility towards their society and towards the world as a whole. And people like Ma'mar Sinan or Ibn Haywa or many others feel that really when they are doing a project, they want to do a landmark for history. So really they are rethinking, not reinventing, but rethinking the project so they'll be able to really add something new. And you can see this really clear in their works. You know. I give just some examples of what we have seen before and move forward so I can really start looking at some model design. Sustainability, almost in all our projects in the Islamic world, we can see sustainability. Whether you go to Samarkand, whether you go to Pakistan, whether you go to Spain, whether you go to, you would see that these buildings still exist and are in use, whether as tourists or some of them even still function. Libraries, maktabat, masajid, madaris, and so on. We'll come to the contemporary practice and also go quickly over some schools, but what we mean by contemporary Islamic architecture, it refers to the current practice with Islamic reference or serving Islamic functions or communities. So it could be done also by non-Muslims or by anyone who really design Islamic design, as we are now designing postmodern, whether it is Western or whether it is Oriental or so. Really, architecture is an international identity, it's not a local identity. We look at classifications, and I think we can classify styles, but you can also classify architects. And I say classify, and some of them like modern, some of them like traditional, some of them like postmodern, some of them like Turab, and so on. We look at the criteria and how we can classify. And by the way, we have not defined Islamic architecture. It was defined by a number of scholars, mainly European scholars, to understand Islamic architecture. Because for us, it is only architecture, Imar. We don't have Islamic architecture. Imar and everything we do falls under that. But they wanted really to make it clear to the reader or to the users, and they said that now. Universal style is really the style which is applied almost everywhere. It has an identity, but the identity is international. It's like maybe clothing today, you know, if you are wearing something, you find that people wearing it here or in Morocco or in Europe. So we just try to give it a good name, but it has an identity, and you will see here some of what we are talking about. This is a building which is in Riyadh, Jamiat al-Qasab, Saudi Economic Association. This is another building in Abu Dhabi, done by Zaha Hadid. Again, this is part of the international or universal design. By the way, we put the name universal, but some people call it international. And see, here is, I don't know if you heard of Fadl Rahman Khan. Fadl Rahman Khan really is someone that came in the 70s, and we were happy to see him and to study him. He's known like the Einstein of structural engineering. Khan really is from Pakistan, but he worked in Chicago, and he worked with companies like SOM, Skidmore, Oil, Mill. Really have done very important projects, and his design and his theories, development of software, were able to do high-rise towers, but he also worked at the Hajj Terminal, and not just high-rise, but really a lot of creative work. And this is a project we have done with a company called Hyder. Hyder is a British consultant. It's a firm which is 155 years. We have worked this project in Dubai, Burj Khalifa, and really the difficulty is not just in the tower itself, but really the work around the tower is more difficult. And if you go there, try to take a tour, and you will see how much architects are involved in planning, in engineering, in landscape, in different parts of the work. And by the way, here after you pass the 81st floor, 81, you are above the cloud, and you will have a different view of the city, and you have a different even feeling, I think. If you go to this tour, try to go above the 81st floor, and you will see different things about the city and about the building itself. This is a beautiful building done again by SOM, Skidmore, and Merrill, and it's one of the first universal styles introduced in Jeddah in the old town. Jeddah now, by the way, they are renewing the old town, and it's really, they're doing good work, but it will take time. But among these buildings, there was this SOM building, which got many international awards. The building is a triangular shape with some additions and expansions, and this is how it looks from the inside. Even the atrium is quite beautiful, and the feeling that you get when you enter this building it's really that you are outdoor also, in spite of this big structure, but you are still related to the outdoor. This is a project we have done in a place called Yanbu al-Nakhl. It's about 70 kilometers from Yanbu, which we know, and this is a small town for people over there. The idea is not to go more than one floor, because there is enough space, and to make people live in the community. And this was the main building, which is again for the cement company, but also it has the college in it, which graduates people who are studying cement products. Developed Islamic style has developed really over, as I say, a number of years, but with the changes in the Gulf area especially, not just in the Middle East, but mainly the Gulf, some local architects start working with international architects and developing, I would say, a style which is important. I hope we can move in this direction and even develop further. You could see here a hotel. Yes, there is a lot of Atlantis hotels around the world, but you could notice this is done in an Oriental city, or the Orient, or in the Middle East, or in the Islamic world now. This is like a gateway, Bawaba. As you enter, I've been to this building. As you enter from here, you can see the sea, and you can see the building. It has very beautiful landscape, and with the sea background, and you can see the city from there. It's one of the projects. This is another hotel, Four Seasons, which is in Qatar, and again, they have used some elements, I think sometimes because we are new in this, we are trying to develop a modern style, Islamic modern style, and we use some elements, arches or domes, and say this is still we are in the process of developing, but inshallah you can participate and develop this more. Here is Jabal Omar, and really this is a very beautiful project. Even from the interior, it's very beautiful. They put a lot of effort to study Amar al-Makkiyya, the Makkah architecture, and try to use it over here, and especially in the interior. This is an office in Jeddah. This is where I work. It's an office in Jeddah, and we tried also here to use the local architecture, traditional architecture, but in the modern way. This is a school that we have designed. We have designed, alhamdulillah, over 70 schools, and this is one of the schools called the Andalus School. And The idea is really, again, to show the Andalusian style. I want to show here also mosques. We know mosque has a certain shape, but this mosque is done in Indonesia. And the idea here is as if you are taking calligraphy and putting it on a building and embodying this building. And the building has some water in it, and mihrab really is part of this water and flowing around the whole building. You can go to the website and see more of this. This is another project done by firms, not really our firm, we have worked with them, but it's called White Space. White Space is a firm from Dubai, and really, if you notice, this building is like someone, yes sir, see, the idea came from here, then you try to make it as a symbol, and then from that you put the architectural and engineering shape, and from here you come to here, and then you ended up with this building. You know, you see a lot of lighting, a lot of geometrical shapes, and ended up with a new design of mosque. This we have seen before, you know. Definition. What do we mean by the term architecture or Islamic architecture? What are the variations of the term? What are the origins of the term? And what are the criteria to become one of these terms? The definition of Islamic architecture has been a controversial topic and still is really. When really I met people, whether in Europe or United States or in Far East, and we talk about architecture, Islamic, and really many people have different views. And because they have read different material about it. And you see here how different architects, different authors, and different historians describe Islamic architecture. For example, there is Mitchell in 1978, he wrote a book, and he called it any Islamic architecture produced by Muslims, he called it Islamic architecture. Others have different view. Says it's the architecture related to Islam or Islamic civilization. Someone else said no, it is really the Islamic architecture that has to do with Islamic functions. Sorry, that's not true. For example, Graber in 1974 and Hillenberg in 1994 called Islamic architecture. Richmond, 1926, and Creswell, 1932, called it Muslim architecture. Aga Khan Award, and you know Aga Khan had their own also definition. They call it architecture of the Muslim communities rather than this. Fletcher in 1896, he was one of the first to like and study Islamic architecture, and he called it architecture of Islam, because really he moves through the Islamic world and he saw some common elements, and he called it architecture of Islam. Briggs in 1924, he also wrote more than one book about Islamic architecture, but he called it Muhammadan architecture. As you see, all these terms came by non-Muslims trying to understand Islamic architecture. For us, really, we call it Imara, and this is it. But I will not go further with this one and try really to move to other parts. But as I said, this is a controversial topic, but it's a nice controversy. It's not really controversial that makes a difference in taking your own position. But it's something really that makes the subject more rich, I would say. Directions of applications. I think if we study Islamic architecture, you can see that a lot of cities has been designed by Muslims. And you could see in Algeria today, you could see even in Spain and Greece, you could see in Egypt, you could see in Morocco, you could see even in China. From the first century, there are towns and villages designed by Muslims, and you could see the difference. And again, also the layout or plan layout, and this has to do a lot with the function, the scope of work. The facades, very clear. You you can see the difference between Islamic architecture and other architecture. Construction technology. Muslims, alhamdulillah, has put a lot of effort, as I said, to make sustainable building, and as such, they've tried to develop construction technology from early years. Decorative elements, it's very rich. Islamic world is very rich with decorative elements, and today there is a movement using calligraphy, Khatt al-Arabi, to design buildings. And this is very important. I wish your school here and one of you try to use calligraphy in this. I was just meeting 2 months ago with the number one calligrapher, Alam Khattab from Turkey, and he said, you have the Arabic language could make you do the best buildings and not just the best writing. And I think he's right. If we reflect on this, think about it and research, how can we do that? We start doing it, but it's not enough. This is a project that we are working on now. It's about 10,000 units, 7,800 apartments, 2,200 villas. It has a city center, it has a hospital, a clinic, 27 mosques, 15 schools, and others. And we try to use here modern Islamic architecture, and we see how this happened. This is another beautiful project in Riyadh, Qasr al-Hukm, and this is Qasr al-Hukm, and really got a lot of awards. This is هذا by Rasim Badran, هذا by Hassan Fathi, قرية Gonna. Beautiful about this place, not just simplicity, but also people have participated in building their own houses. And by the way, now in India there is a project copying this project, well, not copying, trying to have people from the village participate in doing their own houses and own architecture. This is a project we have done about 16 years ago. We took Mantiqa Sharqiyya. We were studying this project. The project took us 7 years of study to look at different towns and villages, and this is what it was before, and this is what we have redesigned. And I think that we have a program now to start implementing this. Really, we just try to stop cars from moving, make more pedestrian, and also still make people can go from their house and work in front of the house. If there is a lady, he can keep his goods in his home, work, and the Ghurub al-Shams or at sunset, he can go back and stay at his house. And as you see, the streets are not wide, no cars can get in here. This is part of the old cities, it was like that. Here are different plans and layouts, I will move quickly. This is a building we have done for Awqas. This will be about 42,000 square meters. The idea is to use the local architecture in Western region. And as you see, we have tried to use the dome or the arches or the decoration. And basically, really, there is a lot of forms. But putting the building together, this building is being used 24 hours a day, because there is 20 magazine newspapers produced, and also we try to use Mashrabiyya in a different way, and some of the domes, like this one has writing under it, some are silent domes, and some are, you see, facade buildings. I will say that really, again, if we go from the major changes that happened was around the 8th century, and there on really, if you study, there is a book written by Abdul Wahid al-Wakil. You will see he really have wrote a lot about how facades changes and how it could still be a source of knowledge for us to read this now. I just took part of what he said. This is Wazarat al-Petrol, the Ministry of Petroleum and Minerals in Riyadh. Again, what we have done here is Hyder al-Petrol, and we tried to make some decorations, so we put the arches, but also we looked at the atrium and the different volumes of the building, and this is how the building looks from the inside. So this is, again, we look at an idea like that, and we try to copy it, or rather do something like it, but in a different way. The atrium here is only 3 floors. Here the atrium is about 9 floors. And I think really, if you are on the top, you could see someone here, you could hear the water, you could see your guest from here, you could see your guest coming. Everyone has to pass by a point over here. This is an office building that I'm working in. This is our headquarters in Jeddah. I took idea from others. We have seen this one, and you know this building. By the way, you have done it for Samarik, now it is for Aramco. But you know, they are all the same between Samarik. This is one of the first hotels we have done in Medina Munawwara. And most of the hotels we have done is in this style. And of course, the Mantiqa al-Markaziyya, or the central region, require that you work within this style. This is again different parts of the world. These are various houses we have done in. This is the Jeddah. This is the Riyadh. This is the house on the inside. I like to use domes and natural lighting as much as I can. This house has this kind of natural lighting, and also this house has a number of natural lighting. This house is another house like one in Riyadh. The owner wanted to see water and greenery from everywhere, whether from his living room, from his dining room, from his bedroom. Wherever you go, you could see the landscape and you could hear the water if you open the windows now. This is one of the projects, alhamdulillah, we got an award for it, international award. It is, if you want to call it Islamic design or postmodern Islamic design, it's really a villa that we are doing about 2,200 villas at this time. This is, I think I took more time, but I would like to say that the indoor environment is very important, and it's important really to study elements like electricity, carbon emissions, the ozone, the global, and there is a society here called the Green Jamiyat al-Khadra, Ahya al-Khadra now. If you participate in this one, there is a lot of good information, and they had a conference about 1 week ago. You can learn a lot from them. Conclusion. I think a successful architect in any place and time is the architect who can apply the following equations successfully. Function is very important that you meet the function. Beauty, you have to have a building that's beautiful, but also the economy. Because when you come to real life, they give you a budget and you have to really stick by this budget. And always keep this in mind, and then hopefully we'll have a successful project. People that looked at the human scale of building, which is very important, and the environment has been successful. For example, Frank Lloyd Wright, Hassan Fathy, Le Corbusier had this aspect. Always the human scale was the main scale they consider building at. What is the relation between a building and art? Some people have studied this and came up with good solutions, like Mies van der Rohe, like Walter Gropius, عبد الواحد الوكيل, العزيز كامل تعرفوه الله يرحمه, أحد المعماريين السعوديين أيضا. He had very good work in this area. That really, I'll say, conclusion is that if we think before we do anything, if we study before even we start design, think and design, and then we start designing, and then we review our design, and then hopefully we come up with something creative and a good project. Some of the good projects today that has been got awards. This is in north of China. This is a building done by a Muslim architect. It's a building which is 5 stories high. It has 25,000 plus square meters, and it has a very good atrium, and really it got a number of awards. This is China. This building is the Arab Cultural Center in the USA, again designed by an office called Monolab, but they have done very good work in using website, or rather web Islamic up they call it, Islamic up, which is basically this one, and coming up with a full design. This is another building, I think, that they are studying to make it in Baku. Baku is the capital of Azerbaijan, and there is a lot of things happening, as in Dubai, maybe 25, 30 years ago, back we're starting now, and they're trying to put really some beautiful buildings. Khereiji, يعني always you can dream and try to make this dream come true, as أحمد شوقي يقول كان حلما فخاطرا فاحتمالا ثم أضحى حقيقة لا خيال. إن شاء الله يعني all your projects come وشكرا.
Last year, and we have a small gift from the administration. I have a question that was raised by one of the young students who saw the poster and he said Islamic architecture. Okay, this is the first year student, they didn't take any design courses yet, graphics. And he said, is this still something called Islamic architecture today? So if you can answer this first question, and then we will open the floor for
يعني I would say definitely there is Islamic architecture. It's very obvious for anyone who study architecture as a whole, very obvious for someone who visit landmarks in the world. العجائب الدنيا السبعة واليوم في أكثر. Many of them are done by Islamic architects. Very definite from analyzing the components and elements of a building, and whether we are talking about Al-Hamra, or whether we're talking about Taj Mahal, or whether we are talking about Samarra, or many الحدائق المعلقة, you could see the difference. And as such, really, the difference that we don't call it Islamic architecture, but today, because there's so many styles, and also there's so many directions in architecture, people wanted to make the idea clearer and define it, so they called it Islamic. As you have seen from the 18th century, started trying to find a name. And I would say, yes, there is definitely Islamic architecture.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have two questions. First of all, when we say Islamic architecture, is it merely adding certain elements that make the Islamic architecture prominent? Let's say mashallah, arches, domes. Is this what really defines Islamic architecture, or is it interior space quality, functional quality of the space that people used to use back in the day? The second question is the modern use of muqarnasat. I don't think I saw this. I was hoping we can see some ideas how we can use muqarnasat in a modern way.
By the way, I would, I know that some of the professors and teachers know better than me this one. And I'll just might refer a question for you to answer. But I'll give you my opinion. My opinion. It's my opinion just from what I have seen, what I've just. By the way, one of the things I like is attend at least every year one conference about architecture, Islam, whether it is here or anywhere you can find this. But definitely, yes, Islamic architecture first start from function. Why? Because if you look at what we were talking about, Muslim architect had to meet certain requirements for the society, for the building to be served, whether it is a school, whether it is a mosque, whether it is qada, judge house, or courthouse, and so on. Really, there is a function. But on top of that, what makes it a different that you design a court for, let's say, one of the Muslim world, or a court in the UK, or a court in Japan, or a court in China? I think the elements that you add, and that's why the elements of Islamic architecture are different. Whether it is the arch, the door, the dome, the lighting, all these things are different, and you could see very clear. But there is, I said this, as far as decoration and geometrical shapes, Now there is a big movement, not just in the Muslim world, but even in the Western world, to use Islamic geometrical shapes. That's why this Dutch met him, in Manchester. He wrote a book about geometrical shapes, Islamic geometrical shapes, and how this could be used now. Even he came out with a screen that is now being used in hotels like Hyatt Hotel. They used it in Istanbul. They used it in London. How we use these geometrical shapes to make interior design. And we can develop this around. Lots of beauty. Abdulaziz Khan rahmatullah alayhi was one of those who really put a lot of time to develop interior design. And you could see it in one of the buildings he had done in Mecca, Burj al-Jiwar. Done very good work. And also Diyar al-Bahr, Corniche. If you look at these buildings, there is some beautiful touches.
We will open the floor for informal discussion after the presentation, if you have to stay. And if our listeners, because our students actually take more from you than an informal sitting. So if there is no more questions, we can end the session and then we will start the informal discussion. Again, on behalf of the department and college, we would like to thank you for attending the lecture and thank our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Solaiman Khereiji, for sharing, the information with us and showing us some of his nice work. We will try to steal the presentation if he doesn't mind, to keep it in our library, so for you as a reference. He also generously gave us a book that we will keep also in the reference library for all of you to look at. And finally, thank you again, and thanks a lot for sharing this information with us. And تجشمك على السفر. I don't know how to say this in Arabic and English, but we really appreciate it.